Welcome to the Real Aesthetic Podcast, a real deal on like aesthetics and skin.
Oh, we've been rolling this whole time.
He was my gopher.
I'm your host, Alexis Arsenis. We're going to have a good time here. Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Aesthetic Podcast, a show where we talk about business, entrepreneurship, some skin stuff, a little bit of everything, life, current events, but we're doing a totally different series. This is another episode of our Business Spotlight series, talking about entrepreneurship and your journey to success. So today we have a super successful, a broker, realtor? Like is it real, like a broker?
It's
you
a
own your
broker.
own brokerage?
Right. It's a
But
real
she's
estate
also
brokerage.
like Auntie Sil, and I love her to death. So Priscilla's here with us today. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so nervous.
Why? Don't
Because-
be nervous. How many years have you been in the real estate game?
Oh, just over 50 years.
50 years.
Right. I was pretty young when I started.
That's crazy. So I can't imagine like the market shift you've
Oh,
seen
my God,
in
no.
50 years.
Oh, no doubt. Not only the market shift, but the way that you operate, the laws and rules are just
Do you think it's easier now or harder?
not at all. I think this is much more difficult to conduct business. Everybody is excited when we got computerized in the 90s, and that was a big deal. But we miss a lot. No matter what people say, they tell you that you can look at a home online, you can watch the videos, you can do the watch the walkthrough. It's not the same.
It's not as personal, I think.
And I think buying a home is very personal. I will say that the majority, you're not going to believe this, but the majority of my sales, people raised their families and stayed in the same home. So that whole thing about moving every 5 to 7 years didn't work for me because they stayed there. And I did ask one woman, you're supposed to move every 5 to 7 years. She's been there about 30 years or more.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you shouldn't have done such a great job finding my home.
I mean, you are really good. I mean, full disclosure, I also used her to buy my house. And I think we looked at, I don't even know how many houses we looked at.
Well,
and
I
they
went
all
through
were
hundreds.
terrible. They were all terrible. And then this one I found online, and I'd never done like an online deal. It was the first house I bought. I didn't really know like what I was doing. And you were so good with walking me through the process and kind of like what I should expect from them, and I just felt like I was the coordinator. Like I just had to email the attorney and you, and then everything somehow worked out.
Well, you were a little bit different sale because the seller of that property absolutely insisted that there was no realtor involved, which is
why you turned into Auntie Sil. But I feel like it was so funny because he goes $550, no negotiations.
Yeah, he was
wasn't moving and was like, I don't want any realtors involved. And I was like, well, okay. But like, I would be stupid if I didn't do some research. Like, what if I paid for this and it would never be worth $550? I mean, I know my house is going to be worth more than that with everything we're doing, but like, it would be dumb not to do due diligence.
You were adamant about buying that house. No matter what was wrong, you were
it was
buying
awful.
it because because it had the acreage.
Yeah, and it was 45 minutes from here.
Right. So
it was really location.
Yeah.
Although I think she tried to talk me out of it like for weeks. Alexis is a really bad idea. Don't do this. You're not going to like this. It had this they had a lot of animals at this property. And they took care of it. They only lived there for 4 years. I mean, he made out well. He bought it for three.
He made out well.
Yeah, he bought it for $305. He sold it for $550 within 4 years. I would say that's a good turnover.
He did well, but he was lying to you, and I know that I told you this many times. He was going to remove this. He was going to do that. I knew he was never going to do that stuff, and I tried.
And he did remove all the Tonka trucks. My house was lined with Tonka
It
trucks.
was like a mini junkyard.
It looks like a junkyard now too. Everywhere with these Tonka trucks. And I was really glad we did the 60-day close. That was a really good advice
Mhm.
from you,
Mhm.
because that would have been a total disaster. Have you done a lot of off-market deals recently with how the market's been?
Actually, yes. In fact, I have an ad coming out this week. We've had 3 off-market sales since the beginning of the year.
That's
And
pretty good.
it's not necessary. I like to call them private sales because they're properties where maybe there might be a reason why a seller doesn't want his house, in MLS and
Yeah.
advertised through Zillow and all of that. And sometimes it works out that we're fortunate enough that we have a buyer who is in the neighborhood, or
Yeah.
we have a
And they
buyer in
just
our
reach out to you
portfolio.
directly.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
My mom hated all her experiences with trying to sell her house. That's why she never sold it.
Well, she never called me.
I know. That's what I told her. That was a real problem. But
That was years ago.
I think with the thing that people really get caught up on, like, the commission. So
Yes.
when places like Redfin say, like, oh, 1% or 2%
There's
or
always a
whatever,
catch
there's
to
a catch
everything.
to it.
Mhm.
I think they get people, and they don't realize that it's not going to be the same person entering their home every single time,
Mhm.
which for me would freak me out. Like, I would rather have, like, you're showing my property, or you're going to be there if someone's coming,
Mhm.
just so you have that one person you trust in your
Yeah,
home, because I feel like that's a really personal place to be.
it is, but when you do that, and we do have sellers that do that, and I totally understand it because it creeps me out too. The issue is that you diminish the number of showings,
Yeah,
and the key to getting the highest price is to get
showing
as
it.
many people in there as possible. That's why you see so many agents right now. Open houses are the things, and it's not uncommon for someone to have 20, 30 people or more at an
Yeah.
open house.
I have a
It's
friend down in South Shore, he had over 100
I
people
believe that.
walk through these
Yeah,
tiny houses.
yeah.
But how is so to go back to your journey and how you started. So at first you were an
Mhm.
agent just working for someone.
Right.
How many years was that?
So that was 94 to 97.
It's the year I was born.
Oh, I don't wanna say I'm older than dirt, but
No, but I feel like you've been in the game a long time, and that's so
absolutely.
cool because some people don't get it. Like, these kids get their real estate license and they think it's going to be this easy peasy, I can do it part-time and make a lot of money.
Well, some people do. I had someone come in
Yeah, but that's
part-time,
rare.
and they they had some knowledge of who would be looking, and that's what made them actually get into the business. They knew that a cousin, they were buying something, and so
Mhm.
they got into the business and stayed in the business just for a few years because they did they did nothing to ensure, that down the pipeline they would have more
Yeah.
people. But they came into the office for a couple of years and then left. And
Mhm.
that's fine,
So what
they're
made you wanna have a brokerage and, like, be a broker? Was it because you didn't
ah,
wanna pay for, like, you didn't wanna lose out on that commission, or were you just, like,
no,
wanted to do it your own way?
a little bit of everything.
Okay.
So, in the beginning, I've been a real estate agent for so long that in the beginning, only broker owners could be part of the realtor association. So when I first started in 74, you were considered a realtor associate. You weren't even a realtor yet.
Okay.
When I opened my office in 77, I opened with a partner, and she had left the office that we were working with. And may I say that that was the hardest thing I ever did. It was easier to get married and move out of my mother's house than it was to leave that office because I felt secure.
Mhm.
However, they had other family members that they were supporting with their real estate office. And so I would, if I wasn't there to take a phone call, they would tell me that I had to pay so and so a fee because he was there. So every
Mhm.
time I got paid, I was losing something.
Mhm.
And then I had a big sale. Well, to me, it was a big sale on Main Street
In North Reading?
in North Reading, and I didn't know anything. What?
So your real estate game has always been in the North Shore of Boston, for the
Yes,
most part?
for the
Okay.
most part, yes. So this was kind of the icing on the cake. So I didn't know about traffic counts. I didn't know where I could get that. And when the person wanted to buy it and he said, "Well, how many cars go by here?" I literally sat outside one day and counted the cars because no one had taught me where
Yeah.
I was 27. What did I know, right?
Well, the
So
internet, like, I mean, I feel like the internet was still
there was no internet. That
not
didn't
out
happen till
yet.
the 90s,
Yeah,
right?
so that's a long
That was a huge difference.
so, like,
But
how would you get that information anyway?
I imagine I could have talked to someone at the State House or Department of Transportation. They probably
I mean, I
haven't,
feel like doing self-research at that point made a lot of sense, like
but it was crazy. But any rate, when I got paid, it was supposed to be, now think about the year that we're in, right? 1978, 77. It should have been a $6,000 commission, 10% back then. I only got $600. And at
What?
yes, because the agency, the principal broker at that time, told me I didn't have a commercial real estate license. For the record, there's no
I was gonna
such
say there's no
thing.
such thing.
Right. But I didn't know. I was 27.
And so you're just like, "Okay."
That's what I said. And it was actually the bookkeeper at their office that said to me, handed me a piece of paper and said, "This is how much money you lost this year. This is how much money they took from you."
Could you ever go back and
I would never, never. So there was another woman working there
why
who,
wouldn't you go back and be like, "Hey, listen, you actually
oh,
screwed me over."
because at that time, prior to her giving me these numbers, another woman in the office said, "You know something? I'm leaving." And she had been personal friends with the people that owned it. "I'm
Yeah.
leaving and I'm opening my own office and I want you to come with me." I said, I'm not changing offices." And so then the bookkeeper gave me the
Yeah.
number and she said to me, "Would you be my partner?" Knowing, which really annoyed me at the time, I didn't know, but knowing that she had a very short term plan. Her plan was 2 years of being in the office and then dumping it.
Ugh.
And I had 2 babies to support and take
Yeah.
care of, so there was no way
Were
that was
you
gonna
married at this
happen.
point still?
No, I wasn't divorced yet. It took me 10 years to get divorced, but we
10
was oh,
years?
because he wouldn't sign the papers. That's another whole story.
Whoa.
But I
And
was
back then, there's no email.
oh god, no.
So you're just, like, hoping this person gets the mail and signs their name? That's crazy. I
Yeah,
feel like we take for granted how accessible things are today.
almost too accessible,
Do you know
but
what I mean? It's
that's
so
another
much
story.
easy, like, it's so
Yes.
easy to do things. Everything's very transactional. It's very, like, quick, 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 quick. And here you are waiting for, like, snail mail to deliver your divorce
Mhm,
papers to then,
mhm.
like
We did a lot of
that's crazy.
driving, and,
Yeah,
there were advantages. So anyways, we oh, I decided that, yeah, being a partner was a good idea, and I
yeah.
really liked her. I liked her family, and families were more involved in the business than they really are now, and so we needed a place to open. You're gonna love this.
Oh, boy.
So there was a little building on Route 62 that was actually where the old train depot used to be. I know you don't
Okay.
even know where it is.
I was like, "Hmm."
What? Right. And we went to Stoneham Savings Bank. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Stoneham Co op. And we told them we wanted a loan. And they said, "Well, what do you have for collateral? How much do you have in the bank?" Literally, I had $14.
And they gave you a loan?
Yes, because
What?
we went and met with the president of the bank, and he says, "Well, you 2 ladies seem like you know what you're doing." "Oh, yeah, we have great plans, and we think it should be run this way and blah, blah, blah," and so he gave us a mortgage. Is that not incredible? When I tell you that I had a lot of support, my
That is now we jump through hoops and, like, give our firstborn child to get
a
a loan.
commercial building,
Yeah.
and it needed everything, everything,
How much did you
and
pay for it back then? On 62, so,
on Route 62,
so,
32,000.
what?
32.
32,000 is, like, not even a down payment on this now. Okay, for people that don't know this area, Route 62, super busy. tons of traffic, great foot traffic
Wait,
depending on
not
where.
then.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it's still, but it was going to grow to that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you could
Well,
argue that.
I wasn't seeing that far ahead. I was looking at my
Do you still own that?
no, I wish.
That would have been a gold mine.
That's a crappy story. But but I was looking at I had 2 kids.
Yeah.
I needed to
How old were they at this point?
so they were 4 and 6.
So babies. We have babies.
To me, babies. And I know we were talking about children earlier, but I actually put them to work.
Good. My mom did that to us when we were that little.
Yeah. So I had a lot of support in town. I have to say, God rest their souls. Nick O'Brien, I would never have made it at all without him.
Old man Nick O'Brien?
Yep.
Really?
Nick O'Brien I had
the guy with the farm on 28.
Yes.
He just passed away.
Yes.
I know his grandson.
Oh, not Nick O'Brien, the gas station.
Oh, the gas station guy.
Not
different family. Okay.
Different family. And no, actually same family, but
like, yeah.
Yeah. But Nick had a gas station there. And what was my car? Ford Fairlane with I had to keep little cans of Sterno on the floor for heat. Only one door opened. It had a hole in the floor, and I would tell my daughter, when you sit in the back seat, don't put your foot there or you'll die.
She's like sitting there holding her legs. Like,
I
oh my God.
Remember, I only had $14 in the bank.
Yeah.
And their dad was.
How much was gas then?
Oh God, I don't remember. I truly don't. I will tell you that.
Just curious.
My car wouldn't start, and Nick would come every day to my house and start my car.
And this was in 74?
74, 75, 76, 77. One day I said, Nick, how much is a battery? And he's like $24 or something. I'm like, let's do that, because every day I was paying him $2.50 to start my car. And Bill Smith, who passed away recently, was another one of my champions. He smoothed the way through the town so that we could have a decent sign. He got in touch with the Lawrence Eagle, and we were on the front page of the Lawrence
That's
Eagle.
Unreal.
Two women entrepreneurs in business.
In the 70s, which
was 70s.
Not normal.
Not normal at all. You didn't hear. There was always, if a woman was in business, there was a man backing her.
I was going to say, did you find that difficult? Because did people like look down on you because you were 2 women business owners?
No doubt. I mean, and I guess I was adorable back then
because
I had all the in the world asking me to come see
little
my
Italian,
house.
I mean.
Yeah, come see my house. And I mean, I had one customer, I'm walking up the stairs showing him property at that time, because the partner that I had only wanted us.
Okay.
So it was only going to be a 2-women operation, nobody else in there. We split the bills, we kept the earnings, and that was it. And that worked great until she decided, something, I wanted to remodel my house and buy a brand new caddy. I paid for everything. I'm retiring. We were only in it 2 years.
Oh my God.
So, but for me, it meant that I had to figure out something else, which I did. And then we grew. But I had help in town, and my mother was a really strong influence. She did not believe in the word "you can't do it." And she would say to me, if you want this, you'll do it. If you really want this, you'll find a way and you'll do it. Get out there. And that was her attitude. She was never the mom that said, why don't you go to work for someone? Never said a word. Even though my father and mother worked for big corporations, they believed that if you wanted it, you would do it. And we did it. I feel that maybe I wanted to be a good mom.
It's hard.
And I loved real estate. It's still a passion. I can't help it. Sometimes I wish that it weren't. But I wanted to be a good mom. So my daughter one year in basketball had, I think it was 47 games. And I penciled them in.
Yeah.
So, That was the main thing.
I think now it's really difficult for people to have that work-life balance
It's
because
really
I think
difficult.
with I mean, and I think when people blame, inflation and everything like that, everything's relative, It was just as hard for you then as it probably is now. It's just everything's relative. The prices are all pretty much the same. Maybe now it's a
And
little bit more.
we didn't coddle the kids. I mean,
No.
I remember my daughter wanted Jordache jeans. Do you remember those 100 mil? And they were so
I
expensive.
know of them. I don't remember them. This
Yeah.
was before me, but I do know what you're talking about.
Well, it could be anything
Yeah.
now. Maybe you want a
Yeah.
Coach bag,
Yeah,
or
whatever.
whatever. And she wanted those jeans so bad, and it was school shopping. And I said, "Well, if you get the jeans, you won't have you won't have the other 2 pairs of jeans, you'll have to wait." She says, "I don't care, I want them." And that's the way that we were.
Yeah.
We
Just
didn't
buy it.
say, "Just buy it."
Mhm.
It was a big deal for her to have those jeans. Of course, then a goat came and ripped them on her, but,
I think I remember as a kid, my mom owned 3 businesses, so we grew up probably relatively the same as your kids did with you. And back then they did postcards, like as
Mhm.
advertisements. So one of us would do the stamp,
That's
one of us,
right.
and we'd be sitting by my grandmother's pool in Medford, and one of us would have the label, one of us would have the stamp, and it would be like an assembly line of children.
My kids did
And
that.
but we loved it. Like we thought we were making a difference. And my mom always said, like, this is how it has to work.
Mhm.
If you want us to grow and go on fun vacations, because our big vacation every year was my mom had a Ford Windstar a
Mhm.
minivan and would drive it down to Myrtle Beach. And that was our big vacation.
That was an
And
awesome.
it was the coolest thing ever.
Mhm.
And she goes, if you want to go on that trip, you need to do the postcards. You
And
need to be involved. So I would go with her and I would do the postcards. We'd all do them by the pool, or I'd go to her salon and I'd count all the lipsticks, probably take one for myself. And then, you would be part of it. I try to do the same with my kids, but I find that that's kind of like a lost thing because I find that people at least the people that I see, especially because I work with people that are having kids all the time, it's almost like they don't want their kids involved. Like their kid, they
Yeah,
go to work, they
and
punch in, and then they're just
that's really too bad. I
yeah,
mean, we used to do Friday night drives, and I would tell them, "I have to go find something, but I hope we don't get lost." I had every intention of
because you don't have
getting
GPS.
no GPS, you just drove around.
I
So,
would be so lost. I am the
I
worst.
I was lost so many times, and I always remember my mother used to say that my grandmother, who I never met, used to say that in America is wonderful because you just keep driving and then you'll see the signs.
Yeah.
Apparently, they don't have those in Italy.
No.
So for my kids, we'd drive around and I would give them a quarter for every for sale by owner sign they saw.
There you go.
Yeah. And they would tell me, there's one, there's one.
So what would you go in there and pitch yourself?
Eventually, yeah. I would first, you had a format that you
Yeah.
followed, but the end result was you would knock on the door many times, which I can't even imagine doing
I
right
know. Can you
now.
imagine people just
No.
walking on someone's door?
I th
Especially in the climate
the
of
climate that
today's
we're in
world,
now,
I would
right,
be very
right,
weary of doing that.
right. And then, so that was for a while, and I had a banker that used to call me all the time and say, "Who Fitzgerald and Associates, who are the associates?" And he knew that I would be saying me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
because
I
that's who
always
the
wondered that too. So I was like, I always see the sign. I'm like, who other than Jody? Like, well, now your daughter, but like,
my
who else in here?
daughter, right.
How many agents do you have under you now?
Probably 10 or 12. There's always some coming in and going out, and, a lot of them are older, but
Hmm.
I do have a second company, and that company, it's a non-realtor company. So I developed that company because I had moms that couldn't do floor time, that wanted something to do, wanted a part-time job, or maybe they had relatives. Sometimes they were moving. They just needed that extra income. So, as a realtor, I have an obligation that only realtors can work at Fitzgerald and Associates.
Mm-hmm.
So I developed this other company,
What's it called?
MLS Agents Only.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they are, MLS agents
Okay.
only. And they have access to MLS. They have my guidance,
Mm-hmm.
and they do all right.
Yeah.
So they have access to MLS. Because they can't use realtor forms, I developed our own forms.
Okay.
And they work as buyer's agent and seller's agents, and they do pretty good.
And you
They
just
do pretty
commission
well.
them yourself.
They're on commission.
That's actually pretty cool.
It is cool. It's great for them. And I've had a couple that have started out in MLS agents only, saw that they really liked it.
Then went to school and did the thing.
Oh, you have to be licensed.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were already licensed, but then became a realtor and
Okay.
worked with me for a while. The most people I've ever had working for me was 24, which
All commission based.
all commission based, which meant that
That's a
it's a
lot.
lot of time. Well, because there are broker owners who do not give a lot of access
Mm-hmm.
to their agents, and I never felt that way. Remember, my philosophy in the beginning was that I was a partner with someone. We split the cost of everything.
Yeah.
So for many years, I would pay out whatever the profit was to my agents at Christmas time. So a lot
That's
of
so nice.
well, because I felt it was nice, but it made the office manageable. They
Mhm.
knew that at the end of the year, there was going to be something for them as long as they worked hard and they were helpful. I love my agents. I could call any one of them and say, I need help, and they would be there for me.
Do you
No
find it's
question.
harder now to find good help? I mean, I'm sure you had established staff for so long
Right.
and these agents, but do you find that maybe these newer agents and brokers that are coming out are having a hard time because the mentality is a little bit different?
Everything is different. They're taught in a classroom. I didn't believe that. I didn't believe in that. And I still don't. I can tell you things in a classroom, but it's so different if you're out showing a property and you have a problem. Or I can tell you how to solve a mortgage problem if there's one and your buyer gets rejected. There are a million things to do.
Mm-hmm.
These kids don't know that.
Yeah, I feel like when I did my sale with you, there was
There was
so many different things that you told me that I didn't even know.
absolutely.
You know, I had no idea. But I also think too, which was funny, is when we went to this house in New Hampshire to look at.
Yeah.
And many of you know, I've been in sales for a really long time. So selling a house to me isn't that difficult if you just know how to talk to people like that are there. And Priscilla and I are at this open house, and it almost felt like this realtor was like convincing everyone not to buy it. It was like, this is good, but it could be this better. And it was just very awkward. And I feel like you and I like ripped this poor girl apart.
Yeah.
And she'd been in the business a long time too.
Right, but she had everyone I think develops a technique or
Yeah.
an issue with what's going on and
I'm so glad I didn't buy that house. I'm so glad.
But I liked the house, except I didn't like the land, and land was your key.
hated the lot, and I
Yeah.
hated the bedrooms.
I thought the house had a
I
lot
liked
of
the
rooms.
kitchen, but the stove was in a stupid spot.
Yes. Well, it was,
It was weird.
personal. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. There's a lot of weird
It was big
houses.
though. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
felt like every house we went to, I was like, oh,
Some of them, the rooms were so small.
tiny.
Like that other house.
But I also feel like I say that, but my house is literally probably the same square footage as our studio. So
yes,
it's not
but
that
you
big.
didn't buy the house. You bought the land.
I did.
Right.
I
Right.
did. Do you find that that's popular right now? People are looking to either buy land to build or buy something like a fixer-upper. But I also feel
No.
like the prices of that are just as much as if you bought a new house.
I wouldn't agree with that.
Well, I'm saying after renovations.
Well,
So by the time you put all the money into it,
if you buy a new house in Reading, you're at
$2 million.
$2,375,000 basically, and
Which I don't get.
well, neither do we.
I wouldn't
don't
spend
think.
that. I just
Well, because they
you
some
have
of
to think $2.3 million, right? On a mortgage, roughly. What are we talking?
oh God, I don't even. Yeah, something like that.
$13,000. Nick,
Or
what do you think?
more.
$12,000, $13,000 a
more.
month. If the house is selling for $2 million,
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you're putting down.
Yeah, but let's just on average, you're spending not
$7,500 a month, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you still have taxes. And if
yeah.
your house is that expensive, then chances are your taxes between 12 and 14,000.
Yeah, my mom's are 19.
Yeah. Wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for
Gross.
me. Yeah. And the demographics are what not even first time. Yeah, I would say even first time buyers, they don't want to do anything anymore. You do not see
My sister's the same way.
right. You do not see buyers who want a fixer upper. You
Yeah.
know, you were unique in that way.
Well, it's
Most
only because my husband's a contractor. If it was up,
exactly.
if it was my choice, and because in my head, I mean, I didn't have to pay for. I say
Oh,
I didn't have to pay for
you had to
labor,
pay
but let
for-
me tell you, he made me pay 'em.
in one way you pay.
In one way, you pay an
Yeah.
aggravation, stress, tears,
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate enough that there wasn't like a labor cost associated.
Right.
It was more of like the
It's
material.
not only that. The younger people, like 40, the younger
Yeah.
people who are buying right now, they don't have the time to do that. They're in stressful jobs. They don't want to come home and face the
daunting
agony,
construction.
right,
It's awful.
of construction. They don't want to do all that. They're working in high pressure jobs. They're making a lot of money. They have a couple of children, and they're giving their social life and their children their time as opposed to
Mhm.
spending the money. It's a lot of time doing what you're
Oh, I
doing.
know.
You want to buy tile, you're spending hours and hours and hours. It's a lot of time being taken from your family and your profession if you have to go in and reconstruct something.
Do you find the buyers now are different than when you first started? Like
No question.
age wise?
Oh, yeah, no question. I mean, I had buyers way back who were my age in their early 20s. I bought my first house. I wasn't old enough to sign the paperwork because you have to be 21 to own property.
Did you? Is that true now?
I don't know if it's still true. I haven't
I had
had
no idea.
anyone under probably 25 or 28 buy something in years. But yeah, back then you had to be 21. So I think that couples back then were young. And I remember saying to first time buyers, because first time homes are always so hard to find. And they would say, well, what do you think? And I'd say, if you could buy a garage with a toilet in it, buy it and let's start there.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
kind of how I felt with my house.
Yeah. Now, first time buyers have the opportunities to buy a 1-bedroom condo. What a great way to start. Both my girls started that way. So they bought a 1-bedroom.
So you like the condo model?
I like it because it's better than nothing.
Yeah. It's better than owning something.
It's right.
Versus
it's
renting.
That's right. So at least you're in something. You have skin in the game. You're interested in what's going on. Maybe you learn something, maybe you don't, but it's a foot in the door. And real estate in the Northeast is pretty spectacular.
It's pretty brutal here, though. Like the market.
Buy it.
To buy in is
and get in the
brutal.
market.
And to get into good areas. I feel that, especially around here. I mean, you could attest to this. My grandmother used to come to North Reading, and it was an old farm town.
Oh, yeah.
Like it wasn't really a destination to live.
No,
like
not
it is
at
now.
all.
And now these houses are selling for $3-4 million.
Right.
It's so crazy to see. Like probably back in the 70s, you were selling a house in North Reading for what, $120,000?
I could have bought this wonderful 3-bedroom ranch had I only been able to afford it on Country Club Road.
Down the street from my mom's.
$32,000 with a garage. It was unbelievable.
The with the garage really gets me because I don't have one and I really need one.
I have one, but I don't ever get to use
No,
it.
that's all Peter's. Well, that's where mine would go. My husband, Rob, would live in the garage.
Yeah, you wouldn't get it.
That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I am totally okay with Rob building a shop garage. It has an apartment that I send the cleaner to once a week, and he lives there. He comes in for dinner, but then him and his crap stay over there.
Yeah, right. He plays with the kids.
Yeah, you can come hang out with the kids for a little while, do the thing, but like bye.
Yeah, take your
Keep my house clean.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
keep Oh, yeah.
that.
A lot of people now are looking for, like, multifamilies, trying to get into the
Yes.
multifamily
Well,
game.
so what's nice that the state just approved was ADUs,
Mhm.
so now you can have an in-law and,
En masse.
in Mass and New Hampshire too,
Oh, can you?
by
Wow.
right. Mhm. And, there's
Mhm.
more legislation that's going on, just so you know, in New Hampshire. I've been reading it and
Yeah.
keeping up with it for you.
Yeah, 'cause I don't
S
know.
Yeah.
I don't follow it. I should, but no.
Right. Yeah, it's alright. It comes to me automatically. It's not like I have to
Yeah.
go find it. But I think that, I've always been an advocate for an in-law because I feel that it's a great opportunity, not only for someone to buy a home, but I don't like the idea of going into a nursing home. I don't wanna
No.
go to assisted
I
living.
think it's
Not that
disgusting.
not that my daughter will take care of me. I mean, she'll probably
No,
throw
you'll
me a
live
lo
with me.
Auntie
I
Sale's
Auntie
coming.
Sale's coming. I already told Rob that. I go, "We're adopting her and Peter. Like, they're coming to our house."
Well, I think my daughter's plan is that we live in the basement and she throws us a loaf of bread and a gallon of water every so often.
I don't even think Jody would care if I was like, I told her that when she messaged me. I had posted we were doing this business post, and I go, "Oh my God, have to have your mom on. I want to adopt her." And she goes, "LOL." Like, she knows. Like, I totally would do it.
So, but I think that, it's a great opportunity. Unfortunately, I think that our state is looking at these ADUs as a way to bring in people from other countries to live and pay rent. And this is
So
that
you think it's
big,
more politicized than it?
no doubt. It's not about, I feel that everything in Massachusetts, and I'm now shooting myself in the foot. I feel that everything in Massachusetts is about outside people and not about the people in the state. And I grew up with that belief that charity begins at home. You take
Mhm.
care of your family, you take care of your family's family, your extended
Yeah.
family, and then you give to charity and you do what you can. If someone's in need, you do the best you can. I don't feel that us, I feel like our state is pushing us to take North Reading and make it a city,
It
and
is.
it was never supposed to be, and how awful for those of us who came here in 1971 and helped build the city and paid exorbitant taxes, so it'd be a wonderful bedroom community, and now I'm looking at something that they're taking that atmosphere away. I don't wanna get into politics. I know you asked me a specific question.
No, it's fine.
But, I have an issue with that. I It makes me sad.
I think that what's happening now is everything's just trying to grow so quickly. Like, the houses are getting bigger. And it's kind of crazy to me. They build these giant houses with no yard.
Yeah,
I think to
you
me that's
you
like
have
weird.
you have a double thing going on. You have the people with the means to buy new expensive homes, McMansions on a small lot. But remember, North Reading is an acre. It's that the houses are so big,
Yeah.
you know, that and frontage is key. Like, you wanna use as whatever the mandatory frontage is, so your acreage is usually to the back. So when you drive down the street, these houses look close, but it's only because the homes are so large and the frontage, is
So you were
minimum
around when all of these like developments were going in.
for the most part. Yep.
And that must have been so crazy, that time period between you growing. Did you ever have a time in your business where you were like, because I'm sure showing smaller properties versus bigger properties is a different ball game. Did
Nope.
you have
Yep.
was there like a moment where you're like, wow, we need to shift and
Yes.
target new buyers?
Yes.
And how did you
Yes.
do that? Because now remember, you're maybe just getting the internet at this point.
Right.
Now it's probably the early 90s,
Right.
early 2000s creep in. How are you
Way before the
marketing?
2000s.
How are you marketing these large homes to
So
people that
what's
essentially didn't have those funds to buy them?
Right. So it wasn't necessarily people within town that were buying those homes. And what you found and what you still find now is that a development goes to a single realtor and that realtor company markets those homes. So you don't have that opportunity to market. So over the years, I've had people say to me, "Oh, so and so is a friend of my daughter's and I listed with her, but you can sell it. Well, if you don't have it to advertise, what makes you think I'm going to be able to sell it?
Yeah.
People don't understand that. And I had agents who were in expensive homes and they would draw from their neighborhood or
Mhm.
whatever. But it is different to sell to a first time buyer versus someone who wants a farm, someone
Yeah.
else who wants
Me.
a 5,000 square foot house, or one customer now he needs at least 5 bedrooms.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
It's a lot.
he has a huge family. So,
But even like, I mean, I have a poor excuse for a 2-bedroom house
mhm,
right now with, 2 kids, me, Rob, and another one on the way. Like, it's not a big house by any
right.
means, but what would I love more? I can't wait till we do the addition. Like, I'm so excited about, we're adding a second floor and we'll have more bedrooms. But these houses are like gargantuan. Like my mom's, I wouldn't want to clean it.
It's not only that.
It's
I
like,
mean,
ugh.
I don't know. I do somewhat know how your mom's set up, but I'll go back to Jody's house. Her house in Wakefield was 5,400 square feet, 4 kids, a lot of house. And she would always say to me, she'd say, let's have Easter at your house. I'm like, you have a gigantic dining
But
room.
it's
Let's go
nicer when you're
there.
closer.
Yeah, it's nicer when I think that was an excuse for mom, you cook and clean. But
Probably. I
yeah.
can see that.
Yeah.
I go to every holiday over her house.
So yeah, but it's true. A smaller house, Thanksgiving with just 5 or 6 people is nice. A big house is nice when you're having 25 people for
Yeah.
the Easter dinner or Christmas dinner or whatever. But I do remember her saying that all the time. It actually made me feel good because I never really wanted a big house.
Yeah.
I'm happy in just
And
a
your house is
small house.
old.
Oh yeah, my house was built in 1910. Actually,
That's when my house, my it was a barn when my house was
I
built.
believe
Was
that.
1910. Yeah.
My house was the house that was in Kitty's parking lot.
That's crazy.
Kitty's owned it, and in the early 70s,
Did you
they
buy it before
no, I bought it. I didn't buy it till 86.
and it was still there?
No, it was where it is now.
Oh, okay. They just
Yeah.
moved it to that
They moved it
location.
to that location. I think they probably had to expand their parking lot at that time. I vaguely remember it there.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They have the highest valued property on 28.
I would believe that to a point. Yeah.
Like the largest
They
property.
have yeah, I think the strip mall next door is probably one of the most. I
How
don't
long do
know.
you think
You
it's
know
going to be till
something?
it sells and turns into condos?
Oh, I hope they don't do
I
that.
don't think they
I
will,
know
but
there was scuttlebutt that there was going to be a company going in and putting stores on the first floor, but Kitty's was still going to be there. I hope that they stay at least
do you
until
like them?
I love them. It's one of my favorite
Nick, have you ever been to
places.
Kitty's in North Reading?
Yes, I have.
Best salad in the
I
whole
like the salad
world.
dressing.
Josh's grandmother works there.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Yeah, on Sundays.
Huh.
That's so cute. Josh is one of our editors. He's awesome. He's in the back right now. Love him.
Mhm. So a
Um,
little plug for Kitties. They
yeah.
also have I love, love, love their scallops, lightly baked
Mhm.
with garlic spinach. Oh my God. You just can't
My
be near
do you know
anyone for
what's
a
so good
while.
there is my my grandparents, they love lobster, right? But they'll never eat the whole thing. They can't break them up. Their hands are
Yeah.
all like messed up
Yeah.
with arthritis. But if you go to Kitty's and you get their jumbo shrimp, they're
Mhm.
like the size
I
of a
know.
lobster
I
tail.
know.
So I just get a boatload of those and I bring them home and it's like they think it's the best thing ever. I tell them it's lobster, but like they don't know the difference. They don't like I'm surprised, but they don't know the difference and they love it. So it's our little plug for Kitty's. If you haven't been there, it has been open for what?
80 years?
Yeah,
I think
something
it's 80.
crazy. Something crazy. I mean, the
Very
food's
nice.
good.
The food's great. Prices are
Huge portions.
reasonable. Yep.
So when you were younger and you had your kids going with you to your water's right there. Do you want it? Yeah, go ahead. You brought them to open houses with you.
Mhm.
You brought them everywhere.
I did.
Do you let your agents now do the same thing if
They
they're in a
choose
pinch?
to, sure. In fact, I've gone one step further. I can't even tell you how many times Auntie Sil has babysat for my agents. In fact, one office that I had was 85 feet long. And one of my agents had 3. She was having her 3rd, kinda like you.
Yeah, that's
And
me.
the kids would come in and, they would play ball
Yeah.
down the hallway, and I didn't care. And, my goddaughter actually, uh, her mom was a very good friend of mine who came to work for me and still does, and I babysat. I mean, you have to do as a broker owner whatever you can do. If this week, I'm covering for my daughter who's away, so I have closings and showings and all of that
Mhm.
thing. Plus, I have all of my own stuff. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot involved in owning a brokerage, especially right now.
What would your advice be for a new broker? Like someone who's getting it or someone that's just getting in the real estate game? Like what's a piece of advice that you would say, you really should.
Work at it. Work at it. Be tenacious. Don't give up. Have the attitude that you can do this. And one time an agent said to me, "Well, how many times do I call them before I give up?" You don't give up.
Oh,
You call them 17 times or until they tell you they're going to sue you for harassment.
I love the tenacity.
You know, you
Constantly call.
right, right. I've been told that I'm like, a terrier, that I
You
don't
are.
yeah,
You are.
that I don't give up. I can't help it because it's what I'm supposed to
I feel like when
do.
we were looking for houses, you were just like, we're finding one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we're
And
definitely
even though you
finding
were
one.
like, maybe we should wait a little while. And looking at it now, I'm glad I didn't wait because with the political climate, and
Yeah.
that must have been crazy for you too, is the political climate from when you first started.
Oh,
Like how
we didn't
involved,
have one.
I was gonna say, how involved were politics in this a real estate game when you first started to now?
Okay, I have to say that the Mass Association of Realtors always takes care of that. Even now, I'm on government affairs, and I truly don't believe in their approach. I'm not happy with MBTA. There's a lot of things that I just don't agree with them on. But I will say that they take the vast majority of what the realtors believe in, and they are very, very active at the State House. You know, and realtors are a big lobbying machine,
But
really.
do you feel like when you first started, were people like, "Oh, I'm worried about the economy," before they
Not at
bought?
all. No.
Versus now, I feel like people are like, "The market's kinda
Well,
crazy."
you have the media in all of our business now, and it wasn't really the
And
case
interest
then.
rates weren't what they are now back then.
Well,
Weren't they higher?
when I started in real estate, they were 9%, and everyone said to me, "You started at the worst possible time. You'll never sell anything with these kind of interest rates." And what did I know? I didn't know any better. I just figured, well, whatever it is, it is. And at one point, interest rates were, my poor friends, were 18 and 21%. I told my friend, one of my
What
very,
year was that?
oh my gosh, I was still at the little house. So it had to be somewhere around 78,
That's
77.
so high. Can you imagine
I told
spending
them to
that much?
MasterCard it. But what
But you're
happened,
also buying like, and this is like I said, it's all relative, right? So if you're spending 120 grand on a house,
and that would have been a lot.
let's just say like, yeah, that's like a McMansion, right? I'm just gonna say 100,000 because to us 100,000 is just like pocket
Nothing.
change when
Right,
it comes to a
right,
house. And you're at 18% is probably the equivalent now as if you're buying these large houses for the smaller percent. It's just the
right.
price is just it's all.
But when, interest rates were really high, and like I say, my friend bought it 18%, his lender reached out to him probably 4 or 5 months later, and automatically everybody's rate got reduced to 14, which is still outrageous, you know? So when you think,
Mine's 6.5 and I want to throw up.
right, 6.5 is actually a pretty decent rate right now,
I know, but
and
ugh.
let's hope it goes back. I mean, where should they be? I don't know. I'm thinking 5% is good enough.
I have a lot of friends right now that are stuck in their house. They can't
Mhm,
leave
mhm,
because they refinanced when it was down at like 3.5.
mhm.
And now it doesn't make sense for them to jump ship and buy something new because they're going to be spending double. Like when I look at my mortgage statement and $2,300 of my mortgage is interest,
Right. It's
that's just so
disgusting.
crazy to
Right.
me.
And it's not as if I still don't get why don't tell me that a lender is not making
Oh,
that difference. I mean,
they're
what
making money.
changed for him really that he has that kind of baloney? We used to talk about private sellers or private mortgage people who would give you a mortgage and oh my god it would be 12%. Well, we're not that far from that when you
No,
think about what's going on, you know.
that's so crazy. And it's just, I find it interesting that like when you were selling, the market wasn't worrying about there's no media. You weren't
No,
worrying about the market shift, the
no.
stocks,
You
anything like that.
your big thing was newspapers. I mean, that's where you really
Yeah.
got your information. And well, and you would watch the news, which was actually truthful back then, and you could
Do you think
rely
so?
on it. No doubt. No doubt. I used to have to shut the news off because they would show actual footage of the Vietnam War, and I was freaked out that my kids were seeing it.
That's crazy.
Right?
What year? I should know this. Nick, history buff. What year was Vietnam? What years?
70s.
I think it was late 60s, nice 69. It was
And then
Nixon.
yeah, my kids were little,
So you
so it was
like
in the 70s.
were working through this time,
Oh, yeah.
which is so crazy because
Started in 55.
so I feel like for us, Nick and I's age, 30s,
31.
30, we're 30.
You're wicked old.
Yes, I
30.
know.
We're just 30.
1 foot in the grave.
No.
You know?
And
It's
the
all
other one
downhill
had a
from here for me.
banana peel.
We're just 30.
It was 55 to 75.
So
Mhm.
I can't imagine them showing footage of that, considering how grueling it was.
What are you talking about? We see footage of
I guess we see
Everything.
footage
Of
we
of
course
see
you
everything.
do.
worse. We
But
see
I-
worse stuff
But
now.
I think that now we're so desensitized by it because
And
we
isn't
see it
that
so
sad?
often. Isn't that terrible?
It's sad. My kids, I did not want them to see that. I mean, I would put it on. Plus, you have to understand that my friends from the 60s, I graduated in 68, a few of them got drafted and went to Vietnam. So I was freaked out anyways that I was going to see somebody I know and they were going to be killed. So
That's so freaky. And then like you're selling these people houses and they have like kids that are drafted and all, like that's crazy to me. I guess now it's the same. I mean, there's plenty of people in the service now that are dealing with issues that we
there
have
are a lot
today.
of young kids to me that are in the service and I don't like the prospect of that. But this is life and we go along with what we have to do.
It's interesting that you say you felt like it was more truthful then comparative to now.
Absolutely, no question.
Did you
Because
feel like back when you first started, the news and I know this has nothing to do with business, so I know we're gonna go a little over on time on this, but this is just actually really cool. Did you ever notice that the news had sides?
no, they didn't have
Because I
sides.
feel like now everything is a side.
Right.
Like one
I have
show
to-
is
I
this,
have
one
to-
show
right,
is this. They
right,
shit on
and
each other.
That's right.
You
And
know,
I have to channel shift back and forth to get everybody's perspective. Then I try to figure out what the truth is. And very rarely do I actually get to the truth. I
Yeah.
have to find something.
did you
to
always
read.
question the news?
Never. You just didn't do that.
See, my
Because-
grandmother is the same way. She thinks
Right.
that the news is gospel.
That's right, because it was. Walter Cronkite would come on. If somebody was going to give an opinion in news, it's not like now. It was an editorial and it was their opinion. Now it's all their opinions. Or they have AP and they take the quotes from AP and they change them up a little bit, or they make it very dramatic.
Yeah.
And that's the news. It's just coming from one source. It just happens to be the way that it's conveyed, but it's not even necessarily truthful. It's the opinion of the person who is sending it then to the
Yeah.
news
I
stations.
think that Nick and I, where we stand, because obviously, Nick's entire job is media and, he makes films, he does podcasts, he does everything. He's like amazing. And him and I both say all the time that the news is dead. because there's just so many different outlets. I mean, you can get information from these podcasters, and I think that's almost more valuable because, even just talking to you about business and how things have changed, how you were able to stay in business, how you went and got a loan. I mean, that stuff doesn't happen now. And kids
Mhm.
don't know how to do these things because they're not taught. So people rely on us, kids rely on, I call myself kids because in comparison I am,
Mhm.
like we rely on these online sources because the news isn't showing us anything that's going to like excel us. It
Mhm.
just sounds like a lot of back and forth. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
Nick, what do you think?
No, you're 100% right. The problem is exactly what Auntie Sil said, which is that it's all opinion based, and people still take it. The problem is they started with Walter Cronkite type people. It was boring. Let's be honest, Priscilla. It was boring
It
back in the
was
day.
so
It was
boring.
today the sun came up, and then John F. Kennedy got assassinated,
Oh, that was
and
horrible.
oh, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
I'm saying like
Can you
they
imagine like
reported it
living
like
through, like you lived through that? Like that's so crazy.
I
Like
was in school. I was in, I think, the 6th grade,
that's
and
crazy.
but they reported it as like this is a thing that happened today. Next at 11, we're going to talk about it.
it
It
wasn't.
wasn't. It wasn't like the crazy right wingers killed.
No, no, it wasn't that. It was the principal announced that there was a tragedy in the White House, that President Kennedy had been shot, and the school, we were all being dismissed, and we were to all go home, and everyone started crying. I still get emotional. It was a huge, huge thing. It was like the Boston Marathon
Yeah.
bombing or 9/11. It was that crippling emotionally.
To
And
think that that would even happen.
and when I got home, my aunts were already there, and they were all sitting around crying, and it was, we kids just,
And you guys, and I'm not like, you all loved him as a president. You
who
guys,
knew? I didn't even know. I
yeah.
you think at that age I knew
No, you
nothing.
just felt like this huge
This
figure
was
just
this
got
was
shot.
a sadness. This was like a universal sadness
because we
that,
had patriotism back then. That's why.
right, engulfed everybody and everywhere you went. It was unbelievable.
Do you find in some ways, did you find that at that time, in I hate to say this, but like in some ways it brought people together
No
because
doubt.
it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
Right.
And how did you find out back then? Was the news saying like this is the person who we found who did it?
Well, we would
Did you ever guys
watch
question that? Like, because I feel like
as
now the news comes out and I'm like, is that real?
Oh,
Was it
no,
that
there
person?
there
Do you know
was
what I'm
no
saying?
there was no question. There was jibber jabber later, much later. But at that time, you actually believed what the government was telling you. So there was no question, at least not in my family. There's probably people out there whose family was very different. We were middle class, suburban, growing up in Revere. My father worked at General Electric.
Oh, my grandfather worked there too.
Yeah, he went down, he assembled machinery, he assembled jet engines.
Yeah.
So there were no questions. We were the little people. I'm still the little people,
Yeah.
but we were the little people back then, and you believed what the government said. You felt that you could trust them. And I say, because of that, shame on us, shame on my generation for continuing to trust them. We should have questioned. We wouldn't be where we are today. I feel. Personal opinion, I blame my generation.
Do you also feel the same way about 9/11?
I well, I
Same
have
type of feeling. I remember
yeah.
being in, Nick, were we kindergarten? First grade?
Second grade.
Second, yeah.
Yep.
Or whatever we were.
I'll never forget it. And I lived in California at the time.
I remember going to school. I was at St. Ray's in Medford, and we were all sitting at the table, and they announced that we were all getting dismissed. Our parents needed to pick us up right away, and we lived walking distance, so we got picked up, or we walked home. I don't remember which one. And I remember walking in my house, and like when you walked in, the TV was on to the left side, so you couldn't see it when you walked in, but you could see the couch, and my dad and my mom were sitting there, and everyone was crying.
Yep.
and everyone was like, oh my God, look at these planes. And we watched it. We were
Yep.
kids, and
Yep.
we thought that we didn't know. We really didn't understand. Like, I don't think I understood like the magnitude. Nick, what were you doing? What'd they tell you?
Well, I was living in California at the time, so it was 3 hours behind. So I woke up because my parents were arguing back and forth. My mom was a paralegal in a law firm, and she was very concerned that her boss, who was not a nice guy, was going to be mad at her for not coming in. And my dad said, if you even try to leave the house, I'll call your boss and let him know you're not going to work there at all anymore because you're not going in. She worked on like the 63rd floor of a building in LA.
Mm.
And my dad was like, you're not going into work today. It's not up for discussion, And yeah, same type of deal. We obviously still went to school, and the principal made an announcement over the thing. We had a moment of silence. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 7 years old. It was crazy.
It was wild. I remember like this odd uncertainty for the longest time.
That was the worst thing. I was at a conference with Jody, and we were in a meeting. We came out, and they were replaying. They had brought TVs into the conference room.
Remember those with the carts, the tube
Yep.
TVs? They bring the carts.
Yeah, that's what
With the
they did.
VCR in
Yeah. And we were driving distance away, and no one spoke. No, it was so weird. No one spoke. Everyone, at least in our conference, left. And all the feeling that I had was that I wanted to get home. I wanted to get home as fast as I could. Why? I don't know. I was safe no matter where I was.
I think that people naturally, like, the first place you want to go is home. It's just like where
get home. I want to get home. Be safe.
And I tell my kids that. I'm like, there's something wrong. We're going home.
Yep.
That's what we're gonna do. I think that it's this weird feeling that you get because you just don't know what's gonna happen. Like that, who would have thought something like that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Did you question that?
Later. I didn't question it at first. They told us what they thought was happening. And because I was stupid even then, I totally believed everything.
I don't think that's stupidity. I think ignorance is bliss. And I think that you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Well, not to interrupt you, but like,
Go ahead.
we're talking about the masses here. You need to have some sort of faith in something.
I know.
It's true.
Or you never get, I mean, you can't not trust anything, or we don't have a civilization.
That's right.
I think for me, my worst/best quality that I've had from birth, I'm pretty sure, is I've always talked back. I've always questioned everything.
Yeah. And
it's true. It's true. My mom would be like, do this. I go, why? Like it just always was a part of me.
And I would be saying, don't ask me why.
Yeah,
just do what I told you to do.
Say the same shit.
Because I'm the mom. That's
yeah. She'd be like, because I'm your mother. All right. But now that's like maybe my best and worst quality. But as an adult, and this really spiraled for me when I started my sales career, because they'd say, oh, do it this way. And I'd be like, why?
Right.
Why aren't we doing it this doesn't seem effective.
Right. That's why I can't work for anyone.
Same. I am a terrible. And I like to think my mom actually just said this the other day. She goes, "You're on a 3-year plan." She goes, "Every 3 years, you blow up and you do something else." And I was like, "I know," because I just can't. You pivot.
Well, you're an entrepreneur. You have the idea, and it's your idea, and at least you implement it. For a while, and then somebody else should take over for it because you're on to the next idea. I totally get it. Do you know how many companies I've opened in my mind and started doing and then said, nah, I don't want to do that.
I think it's just a quality. I think there's just some people who just have this entrepreneurial like spirit in them. I don't think it's something where I don't think you can learn it. I agree with that. I don't think that everyone's cut out for this level of insanity and stress because it really is a lot of work. My grandmother says to me every single day, to this day when I see her, why don't you just get a job and punch out 9 to 5?
Because you don't have the security.
I can't do it. I can't mentally do it. I tried it. I worked for a sales company and I was like, you guys are all friggin' idiots. And yes, did I learn a lot and it took those experiences to get me to where I am today? Absolutely. But I would never trade my time and freedom for freedom again.
freedom that is the key. Even though I have to answer the phone when it rings and I'll return all these calls
Yeah.
when we're done. The idea, well, for instance, again, poor Jody, she went to Northeastern, she got her bachelor's, the whole bit. She got a job at that time at
Do you have a
Lotus.
college degree?
I do not, but I had the best education.
But you're wildly successful.
I love what I do, and I had a phenomenal education at Revere High. When I think back and I think about all the things that I
love that.
learned there, I had a great education.
There's a sentence I never thought I'd hear.
I was just going to say Revere and
Yeah.
a great
education.
Wow.
But
And-
it's different now than
Yeah.
it was to now.
Well, when
I think
my elementary school burned down, and I was so afraid I wasn't going to get a good education. And my mother said, so you know when this started, my mother said, if you're worried about your education, go tell the mayor. I marched my fanny right down there. I sat in his hallway until he could see me. And he said, what can I do for you? I said, I want to make sure I'm going to have a good education, and you're putting us on split sessions. He says, I promise you, you will have a good education.
That's crazy.
And
Can you imagine a kid doing that now? No way.
not at 12
No.
or 11, I don't even know.
I feel like my daughter would, just because she's my kid.
No question.
Olivia totally.
Yeah, Olivia would
Yeah.
totally do it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
Sophia would stalk you until you got to your car, but at least Olivia would wait in the hallway.
Yeah. I waited in the hallway. I knew the secretary was like, what do I do with this kid?
Yeah, she's not going to leave.
Yeah. I wasn't going to leave. I was
But
just
I
gonna
think that's
sit there.
something you're born with. I think that the hustle that I'm sure, and I know there was blood, sweat, and tears. Business
tears.
isn't more tears. Business is a lot of tears.
Yeah, it's
And
a lot of work.
a point of this whole spotlight, is really to go over, even though there's a lot of tears, there
So
is a
worth it.
light at the end of the tunnel, and it's worth it.
So worth it.
But you have to work hard. This isn't something where you just
And you do make sacrifices. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about it. A lot of times, there'll be money in the till, and I'll leave it there because maybe I look down the road and I don't see so many things that I like. And it took me years to get to
Yeah.
that point to be able to project. And I know there's all kinds of algorithms and everything that real successful business people do, but I'm just a little person. And I love my little office, and I love taking care of my little people. And,
But that's what I think. I think that's what we need to do more of. I think that as a society right now, and these kids that are getting into business, they look at it like, hey, how do I turn into a 9-figure, giant, huge organization?
And you can do
And
that.
that's great. And that's a
you know?
great admiration to have. And I would never say that's a bad thing. But you have to start somewhere. And there's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
staying local within your
Oh no,
means,
I think
you know?
it's I think
You
it's
didn't
a nice
open
life.
you had your branch in North Reading. It's not like you opened one in Boston, in the Cape, in Nantucket, in Maine, in New Hampshire. Like, you didn't do that. You could have. You
I
could have
could've.
grown
We did.
because you could have you could have used the value of the properties that you had on 62 as time went on
Oh yeah.
and leveraged that to get more. There's all these things you could have done, but
Right.
you liked your lifestyle. You liked being there for your kids.
And you
You
have
liked
right.
doing that.
And if you opened a ton of branches, I don't know how you fit a personal life in that.
You don't.
You could do it half-ass,
You-
but if you really want
I think that the idea of someone the ability to run multiple businesses like that with that high of volume, agents, you have 10, 20 agents per location, you sacrifice your family for it. I mean, my mother owned 3 locations and had 60 estheticians. And she'll argue with this with me, and it's totally fine. She missed a lot.
right.
She
right.
missed a lot.
You have to put it in your appointment book.
Exactly. And she did pencil in our stuff. I give her credit for that. But you do miss a lot. Like,
Yeah.
we were with my grandmother. I think that people want to scale and they see these big things on Instagram and social media versus understanding, like, you can own. My mom taught me this a long time ago when I first started sales, and it's called owning your own backyard.
Mhm.
Instead of finding the great big number of people, find those really good core people within 10 miles of where you are and continue to sell to them. Get them
Absolutely.
to come into you and own your own backyard. I tell this to my med spas: sponsor your local baseball team, have a banner, become part of your community and you will do better. I think this idea of like massive growth business, it just it like takes you over and you turn into this person where you're just like a robot.
Well, some people think that you have well, first of all, some people think that you own a real estate company and so you must be loaded.
They say that about med spas too. I'm
Right.
broke. My account is
It's
negative $4,000 all the time. Just letting you know.
the different classes.
Like, I'll admit it too. I don't give a shit. It goes over. I'm like, I guess I got to transfer money over again. Like
the profit margin on a real estate company is only about 3%. That's not a hell of a lot of money.
No.
And if you want to grow. And I went to a seminar many years ago, and at that time I had 25 people working for me. I was constantly on the phone. Fortunately, my kids were grown, so it wasn't a big deal, but I was missing a lot. I couldn't really enjoy a lot of things. So I did the math one day, and I said, you know something, this is what I'm making with all these people. And when you have that many people, you don't really list and sell property yourself. You're too busy giving
the
them
paperwork.
and the paperwork. And even though I had an admin, there was still so
Stuff
much
but you're
work.
still paying for that person.
Right. You're paying for that person. And if you want to stay on top of everything, you're doing a lot of reading. You're questioning.
Yeah.
You know what that is. So I pulled together a few of my own numbers, and I figured out that if I had 5 good people, 5 agents that knew what they were doing and were willing, there's the key, willing to put the work and time in, that I could also list and sell, because I love helping people. I can't help it. I would make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And so as people left, I didn't necessarily replace them, because how nice it is to not have all that stress of, 60 and 100 people.
I think that people think you need to have these giant infrastructures and all of this craziness to make money, when if you simplify it.
Absolutely.
You can probably have more fun
Mhm.
doing it. You're less stressed. It's not like everyone's down your throat. Where's my check? Where's this? Do you have this paperwork? And it's easier to kind of just
And
go
you
through
can
it.
you can be more thorough.
Yeah, and you can
you
do a better
know?
job.
I mean, I'm not saying that these big companies aren't thorough and aren't this.
Well, now they
it
have
just
all the
wasn't.
technology.
It just wasn't for me.
But I feel like you operate business different because you operate old school, where things are personal. You're talking to these agents. You're with them. You're guiding them. It's not necessarily like they're a number in your business.
No, they're
they
not.
produce for
Right.
you. You give them the
And
paperwork
they
and
always
you turn it out.
And they can always call me.
Yeah,
I am
But
always
you know
available.
about them. You know about their personal life. You
Yep.
know their kids' names, their
Yep.
birthdays. You brought my kids Easter presents yesterday. Like, you're so personal with that. You become part of their family.
And
know?
that's how I've survived.
And that's how it works. But
Yep.
I think that people don't understand that if we just go back to being human a little bit, it'd probably be a lot easier than trying
And
to scale.
it would be better for our children. It would be better for our town. It would be better for a lot of things, because now we're relying on people who don't know us, don't know our family life, don't really care what our wants and needs are, and they're running the country, or they're running our state.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
That's crazy. Nick, do you have any questions that we want to add for Miss Priscilla? I feel like this was so good.
It was good. I enjoyed it a lot.
And I have all my index cards.
I know.
We
look at
didn't
how
even
cute
do
she is.
it.
What is your, okay, read what's on your index cards. I'm just curious.
Okay.
Do you need your glasses?
No. The real estate family that I was working for felt like a second family. I told you that. I told you how we
She
left
has
there.
It says why dash and the reasons why. How cute is she? Like,
oh, wait.
I can't.
When you open an office, what are your goals?
Yeah, what are your goals when you open an office? Come
Be
on.
honest, ethical, and never hurt anyone.
Okay.
I like
If
that.
you could do those 3 things,
That's a good clip.
how could
I
you
love
not
that.
be successful? And I have in here that what was important to me: raise kids, support them, and be
So
independent.
being a mom was the most important job for you.
Yeah. So here, and I
love
I had to support them. I had to take care of them. Their dad was really a deadbeat dad, so it was really on me.
That must have been really hard in the in that time.
Oh,
in the 80s and 70s.
I mean, as much as the good people in town supported me, that
I'm
I
sure there was a
mentioned,
bunch of shitty people too.
there was an entire little league team that was so mean to my son. Every time I think about it, and God help any of those people who ever call me for help, because I will not give it to them. They actually had, and they were only down the street from us, they had a big little league barbecue at the end of the season, and my son wasn't invited.
Rude.
And I didn't know anything about it. He did. He was so crushed. And we drove by and I said, "What's going on over there?" He says, "Oh, that's a big baseball barbecue. I wasn't invited." So, of course, what I should have done was marched him right in there, but I didn't. I asked around later. These disgusting, middle-aged, fat, bald men's wives actually thought because I was divorced, I would be interested in them. Give me a break.
What?
So they didn't invite my poor son to their baseball game. How awful is that?
It's a kid's barbecue.
And why would I care about any of their...
You have enough going on. You'd run a business and take care of
And
kids.
I-
You think I'm trying to date some
and
old fat guy?
And
Come on.
I had Peter.
Yeah, you were with Peter already.
Right.
We love Uncle Pete.
Right. So there are better ways that you can handle things. And we talk about this brings me right back to autism, because when I see the things support autism, make that kid part of your group, and don't discriminate against them. Don't discriminate against the single mom. She's got a lot going on. She doesn't want your husband.
No one works harder, and I will argue this till the cows come home. No one works harder than a single mom that needs to feed their kids.
No kidding.
There is no one.
It's the mama bear.
Don't mess with her. Like, she's gonna make it happen. It has been a pleasure. We could talk all day,
I
but
know.
it has been a pleasure to have you. And I hope
Thank you.
everyone watching, Fitzgerald and Associates, is that where we're still at? Or we're still
there.
associates, me, myself, and I. No, any of your real estate needs, please go follow her. We're going to make her an Instagram. I don't even think she has one yet, but we'll make one.
I forget what it's called. The kids did all that stuff, so it's scary.
We'll find all of that, but please follow us at TRA Studios and the Real Aesthetic Pod on Instagram. Tune in on Fridays. This business podcast series is going to be launching the same time on Fridays at 12. So tune in and we'll see you then.